Welcome to This is Friendship. I'm Carly, and of course, I'm here with my fabulous friends and co hosts, Andy and Joy. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hey.
If you're listening for the first time, welcome to our friend group. If you've been friends with us a little longer, we appreciate your support and love having you here with us each week. Either way, we're grateful for you joining our chat today and for being part of our This is Friendship community. It's so fun to be friends with you. Mother's Day is right around the corner, so we feel this is the right time to talk about the women in our early lives who taught us what it means to love unconditionally, support selflessly, and protect passionately. We are talking about more than moms today. After all, it's highly likely your mother isn't the only woman who cared for you and helped build the foundation for the person you are today. We know this topic might be a trigger for you, and if it is, you can go ahead and step out now, but we hope you'll come back next week when we talk about creating change. If you're sticking with us for this episode, here's where we're going to share our stories. But we want to hear your story too. So send us an email at hello@thisisfriendshippodcast.com or DM us on Instagram at This Is Friendship Podcast to tell us about the women who helped shape you. So let's jump into today's episode. Andy, will you start us off today?
I would be happy to. Thank you, Carly.
You are very welcome and thank you. Who are the influential women you are telling us about today, Andy, and why did you choose them?
Yes. So I have been incredibly blessed to have a lot of influential women around me. The three that I'm going to share today are my grandmothers and then, of course, my mother. So, starting with my grandma Elaine, who is my mom's mom, we lost her way too soon. She unfortunately passed away in my early to mid 20s. And I've honestly always felt like I never had enough time with her, not enough adult life with her to truly get to know her more and to spend time with her. But she was the epitome of creativity and grace. My Styled by Andy blog is in memory of her. I traditionally spell my name Andi. And if you've noticed on my blog, I include Andie. Her middle name was Elaine, and that's my middle name as well. Her full name was Frances Elaine, but she didn't like Frances, so she went by Elaine. So I feel very lucky that I'm able to have her name as my middle name. Definitely the epitome of creativity and just had a very strong presence and was probably the first stylist that I ever knew. Maybe she never knew that she was a stylist. She just had great style, but I remember just had that presence. Then my grandma Kathleen was very tough and tenacious. She had this really great juxtaposition of being on a farm after my grandfather passed away and being there on her own for 35 years and working the farm, spending time outside, and then also was the matriarch of our family and created all those traditions of cooking. The kitchen was really her domain, and that's what she loved to do. And there was always something on the table when we were there that she had made for us. I had the privilege of making a cookbook with all of her recipes, which is something that we have in our family. And so it's something that I reference from time to time in memory of her. She unfortunately passed away in August of this past year. And so her memory really lives on through all of us. And then, of course, my mom has been an exceptional, influential woman in my life and is really the model for selflessness. And she puts everyone before herself and just leads with unconditional love and is really the mom that I want to be. And also has an extreme level of humor that I think is very timely. She has a very good understanding of when that humor is needed. She keeps us all laughing as well. Those are the three most influential women that have been in my life.
I definitely see all three of those influences within you. So you definitely honor them.
Thank you.
You're welcome. How about you, Joy? Tell us
Well,
about the influential women in your life and why you chose them.
I'm going to have to do a little combination of my sisters. My most influential women in my life that I want to talk about today, of course, there are many more than the top three, but my sisters, my mother, and my next door neighbor. So I'm going to focus mostly on the earlier years of my life. And that's where all three or four have had really a large impact. And I'm fortunate enough to still have my mother and my sisters here with us today. I'll start with my next door neighbor. My next door neighbor was just an amazing person. She definitely showed a light in life that I was hungry for. I wanted to see more of it. I wanted to have more of it. I wanted to have that same light of my life like she had. I don't know how many hours we would spend just going through her whole yard. She had this amazing, huge, big acorn tree in the front yard that we would crack open acorns and dissect them and try munching on them and like all kinds of experience and make acorn stew and just the list goes on with all the kinds of stories and things we did with acorns and adventures we went on with acorns. But that's just a tiny little example of how fun she made the simplest little things and how much fun I want to have in all the littlest things in my life, like acorns, like the simplicity of acorns. Then with my sisters, they have definitely been there from the beginning. I've got an older sister, 4 years ahead of me, and a younger sister, 5 years behind me. So I've got to have a lot of time and experience with them. Both of them became mothers before I did. So they were huge resources for me as going through early stages of motherhood. And I kept telling them, I don't know how many times I told them, how did you guys do this? Like, I had no idea you were going through this. And I was just this, this ant focusing on whatever it was life was encompassing of me. And I had no idea the struggles and challenges that you were going through raising these kids. One of them has two and the other one has three. So I still tell them, I was like, how do you do this? They are definitely two influential women. And then, of course, my mother. My mother is just an amazing woman. There has definitely been ups and downs along the way, as every relationship, whether it's your spouse, your parents, your siblings, your friends, there's definitely ups and downs throughout every relationship. But in the end, my mother has always been there for me and done everything she's done for me out of love. And I want to make sure that I can do that same thing in my life. So those are my three most influential women, or four.
Nice. I'm going to riff off your lead there, Joy. I'm going to combine my two sisters into one as well. My three most influential women in my early years were number one, my mom, number two, my sisters, and number three, a dance teacher who definitely was an influence in my life. I chose her because she is really the person that helped me move from shy to more confident and gave me a lifelong love of dance. My sisters, I have a sister who's 10 years older and another sister who is 18 years older than I am. So it was a little bit of a maternal thing, especially with my oldest sister. She was never in the house that I can remember when I was born because she was 18 already. My other sister's 10 years older. So she loved me a lot when I was newborn. She got a lot of good experience loving and holding the baby. But as she got to her teen years and I became a little pesty younger sister, that was not so enjoyable for her, I'm sure. They definitely have been an influence, not only my early years, but to this day. And then, of course, my mother. I lost her in 2013. She was an older mom. She was 42 when she had me. So I was a bit of a surprise for my mother and father. But I never felt that I was a burden or anything like that. I definitely, from my mother, learned about hugs, love, cuddles, snuggles, the feeling of security and safety that that gave me and that sense of being loved. And there was just nothing like a hug from my mom. Those are my three to four influential women in my early years. Gets a little emotional thinking about those who aren't with us any longer. But next, I want to ask Andy, what is a lesson you learned from each of them? And we've alluded a little bit to some of that, but that's okay. And then how do you see that reflected in the person you are today?
Sure, thank you. I would say that all three of the women that have influenced my life have definitely raised the bar. What they've taught me, it's more aspirational. I don't know that I'm living it out every single day. I hope to live it out every single day to get deeper with it or have more of the meaningful components of what they've taught me. My grandma Elaine, her creativity was so influential, and she really taught me that arts and creativity can really be a part of your everyday, and they open up doors and they make you think differently. And so instead of thinking black and white, she definitely taught me how to see things kind of in the middle, or see things more colorful, or do things that are more artistic. She was a painter as well. And so being able to see that and see her process was phenomenal growing up. I think my grandma Kathleen, she was a hard worker and she wouldn't give up. I think I definitely aspire to be tenacious and to be tough and to really have her spirit and her spunk. And then I think with my mom, it's her selflessness. I hope that I can have that unconditional love and be able to step back and truly be selfless. And of course, she modeled that for being a future mom. The three women that influenced me have really set the bar, and I'm trying to live aspirationally to all of the lessons that they taught me.
It's interesting to recognize how you live out lessons you learned and how these women influenced us because you don't always think about it. You start putting words to it and you realize, well, gosh, I do honor them every day, or at least I try to. And this is how I do it.
Absolutely. My grandmother, Elaine, had MS and was diagnosed in her early 40s and wasn't able to do a lot of the things that we take for granted. And she's definitely been with me a time or two in terms of runs and triathlons and all of those pieces. So she's really helped me to really keep things in perspective as well. Even just the mental toughness that goes along with that, to still find the joy. I just always really admired that she was able to have the mindset that she had. We never knew that there was a struggle there. We never knew that life was any different for her. Now that I'm an adult, I look back on that and I really admire how she lived her life.
And I love what you said, Andy, about her teaching you that creativity and just how to live out that creativity every day in your life and not letting that just be a one time thing or a certain avenue, but using that creativity every day and really being and showing who you are to yourself. It sounds like these women were just amazing.
Thank you, Joy.
Joy, tell us a lesson you learned from each of your influential women and how you see that reflected in your life today.
Okay, my next door neighbor, Mildred, she was a storyteller and a bit of a hoot. She loved telling stories in such a creative and fun way. And I think that's part of what I love today. I love storytelling. She was a very biblical influence as well too. She would tell us stories of the Bible and relate back to whatever we were adventuring about or learning about or discovering. She just had a way of bringing life to a story. And I think that is one thing that I will have taken with me and I love. She also taught me companionship. There was some physical distance between locations between my grandparents growing up. So I didn't have an older influence other than her. That was kind of my first unique relationship with someone that was much older than me. The life that she brought to storytelling and the adventures of life just gets me really excited. I definitely probably pull an excitement for life from her and storytelling. And that first companionship with my sisters, definitely support and friendship. They were my very first friends. They're with me through lots of different things. Growing up together as siblings, there's always going to be ups and downs and family challenges. You go through, I think oftentimes we go through life thinking that we don't all have a normal life, or is everybody's else's life this way or normal, with ups and downs, or lots of different activities going on and things like that. But I think through those hard and difficult times, it was pretty important to have some sisters, definitely to help navigate those life and sibling challenges early, being able to share vulnerability stories and points of view, learning how somebody may see something differently, or they may not have the whole story. You may not have the whole story. You may not be able to see the whole story, but getting different perspectives and point of views is an awesome way to get support and friendship that I discovered I needed in my life, and I still do today. That's something really, really important that I need to process things and process life through. So support and friendship is definitely what I carry from my sisters, from my mom, definitely an unending support and love. I'm pretty lucky to say that she's so in love and supportive of anything I have ever done, no matter whether it's schoolwork, whether it's an athletic sport that I've been in, whether it's you name it, fill in the blank. And she's been a support system for me. There's been definitely ups and downs and some space throughout things where she may have not always agreed with what I've been doing, but in the end, she's only doing things to support and love me in the end. So I know that she has done the very best that she can. That's all I can ask for, is that unending love and support. So
Right.
those are the ways that my women have influenced my life.
A lesson learned from my picks of the day. My dance teacher, I mentioned lifelong love of dance, breaking me through a shy shell, which does surprise a lot of people that I was a shy little girl, but I was very quiet, very
I
shy.
would have had no idea. I would have never thought that about you, Miss Carly.
She definitely helped me start to crack through that shell, being in dance and performing, building my confidence with positive feedback and recognizing where I had some talent. Those things all definitely stuck with me. Discipline a little bit too. I can say as a lesson I learned from her. When you're in a dance class, you have to pay attention. You have to listen
Mm.
to what they're trying to teach you. So discipline for sure, but never in a negative way. It's always in a positive light. And my sisters, a lesson from them, definitely somebody else loving me that wasn't my mom, and then definitely learning how to be a good mom. For my mom, her love of life and happiness and her ability to never be embarrassed to show it. I definitely get those things from her. My outgoing personality is definitely from my mom. She was always smiling and happy. And aside from the love and safety that she made me feel, I definitely learned to enjoy life and not be afraid to have fun along the way. Those are lessons I learned from my influential women. So, if you had each of these women standing in front of you today, what do you want them to know? What would you say to them? Andy.
Oh, I would give anything to have my both of my grandmothers in front of me today so I could
Mm,
just give them a big hug, a big, big hug. What would I want them to know? I would want them to know that their legacy lives on. My grandmother's generation, they probably didn't look at it that way. They were living life the way that they knew it. They probably didn't intentionally want to create a legacy, but maybe inadvertently did it in a very positive way. I would just extend so much gratitude and thanks to them for their influence, and to just let them know that we think about them all the time and they're with us all the time, and that they truly live on, not only through me, but through our entire family. And then through the generations as well. So through my future children, I will always tell their stories and keep them alive, our traditions and how we go about our lives. My mom, I probably don't tell her enough how much I love her and how grateful I am. I don't think that we ever can with someone who's so selfless and all that unconditional love. Obviously, with unconditional love, she's not looking for that validation. The learning is that time is precious and we sometimes don't always have as much time as we want with people. And so I think as I'm transitioning into new chapters in my life, and my mom is retiring and she's slowing down and just really enjoying her time now without the hustle and the bustle, being intentional about sitting down and spending time. The beautiful thing is, I see the creativity lives on for my grandma and my mom. And then I see my niece seeing all of that and seeing it through
Mm.
her eyes and having it be influenced. I don't know that my mom really knows how impactful she really is to all of us. Those are the things that I would want them to know, is that their legacy lives on, and they certainly live in us or live in me every single day, and just a lot of gratitude for the experiences that I had with them or I continue to have with my mom.
It's interesting that you say you can see it when you step back and take a look. You see it in yourself, and now you can see it in your niece too, and how she's being impacted. That's cool.
Thanks.
How about you, Joy? What do you want each of your women to know?
Mm, I would tell them each thank you. And I would also give them a big hug, Andy. I would also tell them there's no way that you can even begin to understand every way that you have impacted my life, the decisions that I'm making, how many times I hear your little voice in my head in so many different situations and problem solving angles in so many different life experiences that I wish I could share with you. And I get to share with my mom and my sisters. I could definitely share with them more often than I do actually share with them. I wish I could just give them a way to really know how much impact they have on my life. But that's a really hard thing, I think, to be able to show accurately a true reflection of everything you want to say and be appreciative for. All of them gave me the gift of time, and I think that's the one true resource you'll never get back. They all gave me that gift of time, and my mom and my sister still do give me the gift of time. That's a bigger gift than what anyone can ever give you. So I think I would tell them all, "Thank you, and you have no idea what you mean to me, and I love you." And then squeeze them.
I really like how you said we can't say necessarily what we really feel to the extent we feel it, but it is important to try, right? While they're
Yes.
here, while they're in front of us, to be able to say some of those things is pretty important. As you age, your perspective changes and you really recognize how things you might have felt one way when you were younger. And now, as an
Mhm.
older person with a little more perspective, you have some different messages you might share than when you were younger. It is important for the women that we have that are still with us today. We should try, maybe that's a good Mother's Day challenge for the influential women in your life to say some of those things out loud to them.
Mhm.
For the women that are influential in my life, what I would say to them, my dance teacher, a big thank you, gratitude for all in my realm. But for my dance teacher, thank you for showing me that I can do great things and I can do them without being afraid to show who I really am. And definitely for my lifelong love of dance. I can't thank her enough for that. And my sisters, a big hug and thank you and gratitude for loving me, not only as a sister, but a little bit of a smidge of that maternal love too that I definitely feel from both of them, and for showing me what it is to be an amazing mother. And to my mom, I would give her the biggest hug and never let go, and just appropriately try to express just how much I love her and how much she's meant to my kids. What you said, Andy, earlier, that generation didn't really think about those kinds of things. Maybe we didn't know when we were younger to say everything we should have said. So I definitely would thank her for all of that and just give her a big hug and live with that for a long time.
Thank you, Carly. Probably hang on really, really tight.
Yeah.
Really tight, it sounds
Mhm.
like.
Yes. Yes. And just let her know that I miss her so much. Yeah. Well, thank you both for sharing your hearts today and for
Yeah.
telling us about these amazing women in your life. And I do want to say happy Mother's Day to the moms out there. For those of you out there who are not mothers, remember you are an influential woman in someone's life. And you can take what we did today and share your thoughts of gratitude and love with the women that are still with you today and turn around and say, who am I influencing? Because they're out there for sure. Sorry,
Definitely.
guys. Hello, Terry.
It's all right.
Thank
I
you.
needed the tissues this
Yes,
episode.
I know. Oh, gosh. All right. Well, for our friends who are listening to our chat today, I really want to express to you that we do want to know your story. We do want to hear from you. Tell us about the influential women in your life. You can do so with a DM on Instagram at This Is Friendship Podcast, or even better, why not send us an email because we can respond to you just as easily there as we can on Instagram. And that email address is hello@thisisfriendshippodcast.com. I want to thank you for spending this time with us today. Please pop in next week. We're going to be chatting about creating change, and we can't wait to have you back. All right, guys. Bye for now.
Love and much gratitude,
Bye.
ladies.
Love and
Thank
gratitude.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.